2008 Nissan Sentra. Issue with this one is it's had like four or five alternators put in it. Originally I guess the alternator went bad, and they put different brand ones in, but this is their factory alternator for this '08 Nissan Sentra. It's charging fine, but I guess the other alternators, they would basically burn up, I was told. I'm not sure exactly, but this has got a like a one-way bearing, or a decoupler they call it on there. I don't know if I'm using that term correctly. I need to verify that in service data. But right now it's not squeaking. I have an amp clamp hooked up, and I got a graph here. So our average amperage right now with not much load is 30 amps. Maximum is about 50, and peak to peak is 35. What I'm looking at is the 30 amps average is kind of my what I'm looking at. And here's our basically we're on DC obviously, and there's our little, I guess you could call it a sine wave. Now Steve over there, like, I thought you were bald in the back of the head, but that's just what the light reflects off your gray hair. Steve's gonna go ahead and load it up. But Steve, before you load it up, take a look at this graph here. Look how it's about 30 amps average, and look at the sine wave. Now Steve-O's going to go in there and he's going to load it up. Believe me, he's pretty good at loading stuff up. Turn the lights on. It went back up. Come on, focus. 55 amps, 56. Now look at that. It's squeaking. Oh, that is awful on the ears. 31 amps back down, but look at the waveform. Okay, turn it off. All the loads. Goes back up. Why is it doing that on the amperage? That's what I got to figure out. All right, Steve's got the scope here. Go ahead and load it up. So, like, let's change the scaling now. There's our sine wave, our little waveform there. 34 amps. 34, 35, 32. Pretty even there. Go ahead and turn the load off. I went to a 5 millisecond division. 70 amps. 59 amps. $50 amps. You got the lights on, turn the lights off. There's our 30 again. It's like really like the belt's slipping or something almost. Let's do it again on that same division. Do it again, load it. 50 millisecond division. The amplitude gets smaller is what it looks like. The height of the graph. Turn it off. So let's watch that again. Everything off. Let's look at our peak to peak. That's our amplitude I'm going to look at. So let's do our max and min. So let's do this. Let's go max and min and peak to peak. Now we'll just put DC in there as well. Max, min, and peak to peak. So right now, max is 47, minimum is 13, peak to peak, we'll just say peak to peak is 35. Load it up. Then we'll watch this amplitude. Peak to peak's going to 42, 30. Look at that drop there. 58, 22, 56, 21, 22, 22, 39, 20. Get a faster refresh. 17, 12, peak to peak. But our maximum is 41, and we got peak to peak of 11. We have no minimum. No, it went away. You didn't turn it off, did you? Still loaded up. Maximum is 80, minimum is 50, squeaking again. Maximum 70, 45, peak to peak is in there. You can see we're in the center there. Turn it off. Our amplitude gets a little bit bigger. So, hang on one sec. We got to figure out why. What's your scope there? Why it's doing that. It's definitely that pulley. Do we have high resistance in this wire? I'll show you in the wire diagram how this alternator works, but I wonder if we have high resistance in here. They've replaced the belt, they replaced the tensioner. They got brand new alternator. Let me get the service data and show you some more information. Alright, so we're looking at the service data, but before we do that, like I said, what I noticed, it doesn't show it here, you probably saw it in the video. We turn the lights on, the wipers on, and the blower motor in the car, and then everything adds up. It's up here, 60, 70 amps. That starts squeaking, and then it drops down when it starts squeaking, and it kind of levels back off. Why? We got to figure that out. Alright, so if you look here, your generator, alternator, right? There's your pulley we'll talk about in a minute. I already checked these wires here for short to ground. That's good. Well, if it was short to ground, that fuse would be blown. So, obviously. But anyway, that wire's good. That wire's good. The ground wire, which is a case ground, is good. This is the main black with you. That's the main wire there. 225 amp one that we're looking at. That's the main wire, which is this one that we're having the amp clamp on. Black with a red tracer. That's the wire that we're seeing that change on. Obviously, that's charging the whole system. And this one's not controlled by the ECM. This is just internal regulated on the alternator. So, actually, hang on. This may be the wrong engine. Let's go to this engine code. Yeah, this same thing. It changes colors. Again, these are all good, but black with a red is, so there is a difference. So let me start over here. Because if you look at the other one, it had this starter in there. So the black with the red is the one we're putting an amp clamp on. 225 going to the battery. Fusible link battery. And I would imagine it's spliced off. We'd have to look in there. Well, that's what's charging. But do we have high resistance in this wire? That's what we got to look at. Or do we have another issue? Let's look up one other thing. All right, so the generator pulley inspection, it's a one-way clutch pulley.
One-way clutch.
Yes. So it's just a one-way clutch pulley. This is brand new. We've already checked this, so again, we got to see what we got going on. All right, so I was looking, we're talking, what's the alternator recommended at? Well, these are 110 amp ones. Just look at Rock Auto. We're not getting a 110. But like I said, again, they've got new belt, new pulleys. They use two different aftermarket alternators, so 2 times, which is 4, kept burning them up. They got an OE Vallejo one. See it on the graph, the scope. Like, is it high resistance? So we got to figure out what's going on. So we're just talking again, when we're on the scope here, the graph, when we're scoping it, you'll see it go down and the graph change, and like we're talking, like Steve said, why is it doing that? Well, the alternator's slipping. The pulley is slipping. And that's causing that issue. Right? We see it on the graph. But why? Why is it causing that issue? Alright, so black with red goes through this harness. It looks like it's black with red right there. Move your light a little bit so you can see. There you go. Because if you look at the schematics, I'm not saying this is a problem. We may be going down a wrong rabbit hole, but I've been known to do that. F39, F40. F39 is an integral part of the fusible link battery assembly. F40 is just that loop. So, we might need to take a look at that area. Alright, so I went and hooked this wire here. See, we'll shine the light. Obviously, this charges the battery. It goes through these other fuses here to do power distribution and everything else. Obviously, when we have that wire off there, we're not producing any amperage. Well, yeah, pretty much zero. Until you hook that wire back up. So what we just did is we unhooked this wire here and there, and we used jumper cables to go through it. And Steve loaded the whole system up. And I didn't get on camera here, but it went up, and we're at, I don't know why it's showing that, but anyways, we're at like 60, 70 amps, and the waveform looked pretty good, and then it stopped charging all of a sudden. Go ahead and start it. Yeah, now we're not charging at all. Now we got no amperage. One amp.
The other wire up and check it.
We're gonna go back, like Steve said, and hook the other one up. That is so weird. All right, turn it off. All right, disregard that last part. We had a little corrosion on that connector. We fixed that. But if you look now, we're 56 amps loaded up. Like everything, lights, wipers, heater. Oh, it's still squeaking. Never mind, that didn't fix it. Well, watch this. Take it off, the squeak goes away. Put it back on. Squeak comes back. Squeak goes away. So I thought it was that wire there, because I thought we had it for a sec according to the oscilloscope, but we don't. So back to the drawing board. All right, go ahead and start it again. Let's look at this one more time. Load off, just start it. Okay. Load the thing up. Watch it, it drops back down. It looks like, I don't know why it's doing that. But I unplug it. Obviously our amps go away. And then squeaking goes away. We gotta figure out why. Alright, so I'm gonna finish this up for being part one. I'm gonna go back to the drawing board and take a look. But when we have this hooked up here, it's squeaking pretty good. After we load it up. When I mean load it up, we turn on the lights, the windshield wipers, and then when we turn on the heater inside, which is the blower motor, is when it acts up. If you just have the lights on, the wiper motor, it won't do it until you turn the lights, the lights, the wiper, and then the blower motor is when it has all that amperage. And we'd have to look at the video again, where we get 65, 70 amps, 80, I don't know. But it wasn't no 120 or 110 like it was rated at. Squeaks bad, you see it on the scope, which we got to interpret that data. We unplug it, it goes away. Because there's no load. And it's slipping on this pulley. So we're like, yeah, you know, maybe it's got a bad pulley, but the guys put like three different brands, 2 aftermarket brands, 2 different times, something like that. Don't quote me on the numbers exactly. And this OE one, and it's still doing the same thing. It's got a new belt, it's got a new tensioner. Why is that pulley slipping? So imagine driving at night with your lights on in the rain, and it's cold out with your heater on. Squeaks like hell. We got to figure out why. That'll be it for this part one for this 2008 Nissan Versa? Sentra. I know I said it's done with part one, but I wanted to clarify. I might have said the belt slipping on the pulley, but no. What we believe is going on is the clutch inside is slipping. That's that loud squeaky noise you hear. You know, we thought it was the wiring. We eliminated with that. Like a mechanical side, but my God, you know, 5-6 alternators later, like, just anybody have any good pointers out there, I'd love to hear them.